Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, where you will find interesting guests and discussions about cutting-edge topics to assist you on your journey. The Quantum Guide Show is ideally suited to the newly awakened and for those who feel isolated by their newfound beliefs. The mind, body, and spirit thrive when we have a mission, and there is no greater mission than to become the change that we wish to see in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels, and share this show with your friends. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. We're going to do something a little different today. Robert Kalil from the Typical Skeptic podcast is joining me, and we're going to talk about some interesting experiences that I've had. In episode 127, my special guest, as I mentioned, is Robert Kalil from the Typical Skeptic podcast. Robert was inspired by the greatest of all time, Art Bell, and started his podcast in 2017 to share interesting perspectives on all things paranormal. Today, we're going to have a discussion about my 4 methods to jump timelines and manifest our desires. Thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with others. Please do feel free to leave your comments, questions, anything you want in the description below. And we'd be happy to answer them later on. So here we go.
Karen, thank you for coming back on. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Robert, and thank you so much for being on my show. So we're going to dual record and launch it on both of our podcasts because it's such vital and important information. And so, Robert, you recently did a show about the Mandela effect, and it was so interesting. For the viewers that haven't seen it, please do check out the Typical Skeptic podcast and watch that episode. I don't know, it was just a few days ago, but it was super interesting. And it really ties into what we're going to talk about today, because I've had some amazing results I have 4 different methods I want to talk to you about today, how I've been able to manifest really miraculous results. And really what I think this is all pointing to, Robert, is that we're living in, I think it's some kind of like a holographic matrix. It feels real, absolutely, but we know from quantum physics and everything else that we're mostly empty space. But at the same time, it's much more malleable than what we've been taught. You know, like we've been taught to think in terms of science and that everything is fact-based, and once it's a fact, that's how it is. And I don't think that's true at all. And so that's why I want to talk a bit about how I've been able to manipulate reality. And it's not hard. That's the funny thing about it. It's the hardest part is suspending our belief system, not the actual bringing into manifestation what we want.
Yeah. It seems like for me, it's like I have ups and downs with it. Like it seems like sometimes I'm able to manifest things, but I mean, altogether though, I'm not manifesting my best life. I don't think so. Like I think I could be doing a lot better for myself. That's why I was excited to do this today. You know, I'm excited because I know you were able to like manifest like your dream house, and you were able to do a lot of stuff with your health and stuff like that. Like, so where do we start with this?
Well, why don't we take a historical approach, and I'll talk first about the very first time I had miraculous results. And what I did, I'll just give you a little bit of backstory. So basically, I was abandoned by my former husband. So I was alone in an isolated community with 2 preschool children, no money, no job, and severe conditions. And it was really, really frightening. And then there was a problem with the house. So my husband and I had just bought this house on this small island off of Vancouver Island. And it wasn't, let's just say it wasn't up to code. And so the plumbing packed it in, and there was different problems with the place. And I was completely overwhelmed, and I didn't know how to handle it. And the health inspector actually condemned the house. And so my kids and I were actually homeless for a while. And then we finally got into a little apartment on Vancouver Island. And I was so stressed, Robert, I couldn't handle it. I just couldn't handle it. So I prayed. And so the first method, which is super easy, so regardless of what you perceive God to be, or universal consciousness, or Holy Spirit, or chi, or prana, or 0 point, it doesn't matter. I believe there is an intelligent consciousness that we're all tapped into. So all I did was prayed, and I didn't pray like for hours every day. I basically just prayed once and said, I can't handle this. I really need the help. Please help me. That was really all I did. And then I took it out of my mind. So I wasn't thinking about the house. I wasn't thinking about the problems with the house. What I did was I just gave the whole thing over and got busy trying to reconstruct my life again. And so let me just give you another little bit of information about the house. So what happened is the sewer packed it in, the basement flooded and was backed up sewage. Rats took over the whole house. There wasn't a 1-inch space where there wasn't rat turds and rat urine. They ate through the walls, the electrical system. Like, it was really a bad situation. So I left it alone for a couple of weeks, and I just couldn't handle it. So I didn't think about it. I just worked on putting my life back together again. And I get a phone call. Oh, there's another problem. And that was that I dealt with an insurance broker. And so what happened is once a year, the insurance broker would say, okay, I got a better deal from another insurance company. Would you like to switch insurance companies? And I said, yes. So this happened at the same time or just before the catastrophe with the house. So the first insurance company that I was originally with, that's when the damage or the problems that caused the damage happened. And then the second insurance company that I had been switched over to, that was when the actual damage occurred. So the first insurance company said, no, we're not paying for that. The damage happened on somebody else's, insurance. You should have stayed with us. And the second company said, no, because of the problem that caused the damage happened on another insurance company, we're not going to pay for it either. So turns out that I got a lawyer, and the lawyer was basically negotiating with the insurance companies, and the insurance companies basically came up with something like $720 was all I was going to get from a destroyed house. So that was another part of the problem. So anyway, like I said, I just prayed about it, just one simple prayer, and then put it out of my mind. I think that's an important part, because when we're manifesting or switching timelines, depending on how you want to look at it, if we keep rehashing the problem, we're putting energy into the problem, not into the solution. So anyway, about 2 weeks later, I get a call from the lawyer, and he says, I've got a guy here. His name is Dave, and he thinks he can fix your house. Do you want me to give him your phone number? And I said, yes, please. I'm open to anything. So this guy calls me. He says, oh yeah, I was walking past your house. I heard about what happened. And he says, I think I can fix it. I says, well, I really appreciate it, but I got to tell you, I only have $720. It's not going to, it's not going to pay for much with that much damage. He says, well, I really need the money and I need the work, so let me look into it. He calls me back. He says, okay, I've been in touch with the health inspector. The health inspector told me what I had to do. I had to just remove everything from the house, all the stuff. Like, I had all my storage in the basement. Everything was ruined. Everything I owned was ruined. He says, I got to clean all that out, and then I got to sterilize the place. I got to kill the rats, and then I got to sterilize the place, and we have to do the walls and the floors and everything. He says, but I think we can make the house livable again. I says, oh my gosh, that'd be great, but I only have $720. He says, no, I think I can do it for that. So I said, okay, go for it. So he did it. He fixed everything, and he got the health inspector to reapprove the house. And so now all the rat shit was gone, and the rat pee, and all the mess and the water from the basement, everything was cleared, and he fixed the plumbing system. So he calls me up and he says, well, there's a few other things that need doing. He says, you pretty much owe me the whole $720. He says, but I noticed you left a bicycle in the backyard. He says, how about if I patch up the walls and fix the wiring and take care of the rest, and we'll just trade for the bicycle? And I went, this is like incredible. It's like a gift from heaven. I said, go for it. So he did. And then the lawyer made sure that everything was done the way he said. And then I told the lawyer to release the funds to this fella. And he did. And that was how the house got fixed. So anyway, there's another part of this, and that is after being really traumatized, and I didn't want to live in isolation with 2 preschool children and no job prospects there. And so, but the houses up there, they just don't sell. They sit on the market for 2, 3, 5, 10 years because it's isolated. Not very many people want to live there. Well, I got in touch with a real estate woman, and she put it on the market, and 2 more weeks later it was sold. And so what happened is the amount of money that we got back from selling the house paid the mortgage off, everything. And so it completely fixed the entire problem and set me free. And this happened within a month, Robert, within a month. And if I hadn't experienced it, I never would have believed it. So do you have any questions about that before I tell you? I know we don't have a ton of time today, but
do you think it was kind of like a miracle, or do you think that you do you think just like kind of like by not really paying much attention? Well, it's hard to say because you did pay attention to it, but like you didn't dwell on the problem, like you said. But like, what do you think that like you really did that really? Do you think it was just like putting your intention out there? Or?
Well, I'm gonna try to tell you without crying, because it does make me emotional when I think about it. But I think what happened is I truly opened myself up to God. I really needed the help. I really needed it. And I had such a sincere desire that I opened myself up to universal consciousness in a way that was very sincere and very real. And I think that God made it happen for me, fixed the problem, took the problem away from me, and then fixed the problem. And so I'm a firm believer, what I call God is not this old man in a chair. To me, it's universal consciousness. I think it's in everything. It's in all of us, but it's definitely intelligent. And that's what I think did it. So I don't think it was me per se that did it, but my open heart, I think that was the key. And then the turning it over so that I wasn't thinking about it, turning it over completely. And I think that is what did it, because there's no explanation on how that could have played out so incredibly perfectly. Just, I can't explain it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So even, today, in today's day and age, people are very skeptical, I should say, about the concept of God. A lot of us have been religiously abused and, see all the corruption in churches and things. So it's hard sometimes for us to want to believe in a force greater than us. But I absolutely do and rely on it quite regularly. So that's the first one. And let me see, the second one I'm going to save the best one for last. But the next one is what I call the water glass method. And what I did was this happened within the last 10 years. I got to a point where I kind of got stuck and I wasn't progressing, and I was having more health issues, and I wasn't achieving what I wanted to achieve. I wasn't living my best life, Robert. I wasn't living my best life. And I had heard about Dr. Emoto, who put messages on glasses of water, and then he'd freeze the water and look at the crystals. And the words on the glasses of water actually created what the water crystals looked like once they were frozen and looked at under a microscope. So I really recommend people go and look at Dr. Emoto's website for proof on that. And then since then, there's been more proof. But anyway, at this time, this is before I found out about Veda Austin and the work that she does. But anyway, what I did was I took two glasses, identical glasses, and I put them on the kitchen table. And I put some water in a pitcher. No, before I did that, I labeled one of the glasses, the one on my left, I labeled it unsuccessful. And on the other glass, I taped a piece of paper that said successful. So on the glass on my left said unsuccessful, and the glass on the right said successful. So then I poured the water into the unsuccessful labeled glass. And I looked at it and I focused my attention and I said, I'm not living my best life. I know I can be better. And I want my life to change, and I want to start accomplishing some of my goals, and I want success in my life. I then took the glass and poured the water from the one labeled unsuccessful, and I just simply poured it into the glass that was labeled successful. That's all I did. And then I looked at the glass labeled successful, and I said, from this moment onward, my life is changed forever, and I'll always be moving into my best life. And that is how my life is going to go. And then I took the water glass that said successful, that I had put my intention of living my best life into, and I drank the water. And then I put the glasses in the kitchen and washed them and put them away. And that was the end. That was it. That's all I did. And from that moment on, my life started to become successful. And so gradually, it didn't happen overnight, but things started to shift and change, and things started to get much, much better for me. So that's the water glass method. So this is not hard stuff. This is not hard stuff, but it involves an open heart, and it involves a clear intention. And also, I had to be at the point where I went, no, enough is enough. This is the change that I want and that I need and that I deserve. And so that's the water glass method.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And did you see like results right away, or was it like a gradual? Because I've noticed that like for me, like when it comes to like manifesting stuff, it seems like things come like here and there. Like, it's nothing ever comes like immediately. But like, is that kind of what happened with you, or like how did your success start to like manifest?
Well, it wasn't a linear process at all, because I had good things happen and not so good things happen. But over a couple of years, I noticed that even the things that I would not, I wouldn't actually, choose, they all fed into bringing me to the point where my life became successful. So what I mean by successful is weight loss, getting out of debt, finding better community, those kind of things. And so it was an up and down, like a wiggly worm kind of process, but it ended up, and especially now looking back, it was powerful. It was absolutely, absolutely powerful.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And anybody can do this. And you don't have to be a super righteous, good person. I'm not saying, that the wicked can do it. I don't know about them. I don't even know what wicked is or who isn't. I'm not the judge. But I know for me, I always have a clear intention of becoming a better person, to being kinder, more loving, more patient. That's part of my evolution that I want for my journey here on earth. But I'm not perfect. I do lots of stupid things and lots of things wrong. But it was like the belief. The power was in the belief and in the intention. But I also think that water has some kind of a spiritual, energetic component to it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That really is. And then what else did you do that kind of like took you on this course of like becoming more successful and then inevitably living your best life? Because I know you said you manifested a house as well.
Well, yeah. Now with the house, now this one is more complicated, because you see, in the past, I sort of made general kind of intentional manifestations, but I should say general intentions. I wanted something very specific. So I didn't want to own the house. I wanted to rent it, but I wanted the rent to be cheap so that it didn't hurt me in any way, that I had still lots of money for food and, to travel a bit and to have the things that I need to make my life comfortable. So I made a list, a very specific list. I wanted it to have a nice backyard with grass and trees and bushes. I wanted a nice high fence so that I didn't have neighbors, in my business or people walking through my yard. I wanted it to have a south-facing backyard so I could lie in the sun and grow some vegetables and stuff for myself. I wanted it to have 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. I wanted it to have 3 bedrooms up, an ensuite, and a full bathroom. And then I wanted a full suite in the basement that had its own bathroom. And I even wanted a soaker tub in the basement suite. And then you see my son and his partner moved into the basement, and I have the top floor, and it's completely separate, but they're there in case I need them to lift something or help me with something, or something like that. And they were also looking for better housing as well. So and I wanted it to have modern stove and fridge and washer and dryer, not that old crappy stuff that I had put up with for so many years, and on and on and on. I made a very extensive list, and I spent about 2 months thinking about exactly what I wanted. And then my son and his partner, actually at that point, he didn't even have a partner. So we knew we needed a third person to make it really doable. And then he ended up out of the blue meeting his partner, and it took about, I don't know, probably 6 months before they became, partners and life partners. But that happened in the process. So now we're looking at about a 6-month time period. Anyway, the 3 of us would go out and drive around neighborhoods, and that was how I was able to fine tune my list. And so I fine-tuned my list. We would go out and just drive around and say, okay, I would like to have a garage, but I want it in the front, not in the back, so I don't have to worry about vandals breaking in. And what kind of house did we want? We decided, whoa, I want one that's like that. I don't want it too big because, you got to look after the grounds and clean it and all that, but I didn't want it too small, and on. They had to allow me my pets, and we just totally decided what I wanted. And so then what I did, and this is a really important part that I really want people to get, is I have a magic journal where when I want to manifest something, once I've thought it through and know exactly what I want, I write it down as though I already have it. So I write it down with gratitude. So I have my magic journal, and I wrote in there, so Karen and, her son and partner, I put his name. I just don't want to say his name because he likes his privacy, right? But we found the house, and it had this and it had that, and it had cheap rent, and I wrote it all down as though it had already happened. And I was grateful that it had already happened, even though it hadn't happened yet. So this is why I think that time is not what we think it is. I don't know if the past, present, future are all happening at the same time, And so I wrote it in the book. And just within, I don't know, a month, we got a call from my son's partner's aunt, who said, oh, there's a really nice house. I think you'd like it. And it's across the street and down a couple of blocks. And we'd love to have you in the neighborhood. Why don't you guys check it out? Here's the phone number. And we called, and we went in and saw it. And it was exactly, Robert, exactly what I wanted. Exactly. And so at that time, there was no soaker tub in the basement suite. And I went, well, that's okay. We can live without a soaker tub. But then the guy started renovating, and he put in a soaker tub. So, I mean, this is like outrageous, the amount of detail that I put into it, well thought out detail, and then writing it down as though it already happened. Now, I've done that with 2 or 3 other things. I don't do it all the time, because I'm a pretty satisfied person with the way my life is. And I'm, I don't know, it's like I use it when I need it, but when I don't need it, I try to do it on my own, if that makes sense. So that's the third method, and that's what I call the magic journal method.
I'm writing all these down in my journal right now as you're talking about this, because it's easier for me to actually write these ideas down than go back and watch it later. Plus, I like to write stuff down anyway. I'm a a real old school type person. Like I still use a physical calendar to write down all the podcast
Oh
dates.
yeah, me too.
So I have my own journal here. I'll show people. It's real simple. And my ex-girlfriend got it for me. It's like one of these. And I have my sticker on it for my shelf.
Nice,
And like
nice.
I just write anything important down in here that I need to know, or like
Yeah,
stuff like you said, like manifesting. And
yeah.
you can get one of these at like probably like Five Below. I know they probably have Five Belows in Canada, right? Like
Well,
because I know they have.
they call them dollar stores here, but yeah, you can get all kinds of nice journals, and they're cheap, couple of bucks, and a pen. I mean, that's pretty cheap for bringing all your desires and dreams into reality.
I'm trying to manifest a new car. That's what I really want the most. That's like what I'm really trying for. Like, I mean, we'll see, right? I mean, like, it's like, it's so tough to like, I don't know why it is so hard. It seems hard sometimes. Maybe it's me looking at the situation. Like, I feel like it's hard. So it doesn't happen. Maybe that's an issue or something. What do you think?
Well, I do, because I think what happens is our doubts crowd out and cloud out the purity of our intention. So what I would recommend you do is you really put a lot of thought into what you want and make it sort of reasonable, not totally unreasonable. There's an old saying that says, be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it. And that's true too. That's another reason why I don't try to bring about, fame and glory and this and that, and or even riches, because, then you get it and it doesn't look the way you thought it was going to look. And it's, I mean, we're going to get our life lessons embedded in everything we do regardless, right? So what I would
Yeah.
recommend you do is decide on the kind of car you want and the features, whether you want it to have rear wheel drive or front wheel drive, even the color, what you want to use it for, what you want to pay for it, is put a lot of thought and time into what you want, and then write it in your journal as though you already got it. So I'm so grateful because I got this amazing car and it had this and this and this and this feature that I really, really wanted. And I'm so grateful for it. But then the trick is you close the journal and you put it on the shelf. You don't think about it. Like people think to manifest, you have to keep thinking about it and thinking. No. The magic is done. You put it away and you get on with your life and you do all kinds of other things. And then one day you get what you want and you look back and you go, oh my God, and you grab your journal and you look and it's exactly what you wanted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so whether it's, you want to grow your podcast or, and even growing a podcast, it's not just about getting viewers and subscribers. We got to, communicate with our fans and let them know we hear them and appreciate them. Often there's emails that, that you want to respond to. Like if my podcast grew too fast, I wouldn't be able to handle all the parts that are important for making a quality podcast and actually helping people, right? So I'm just saying that as an example. So sorry, I'm going a bit fast because I know you got another show after this, and but I wanted to get all that out there. I want to tell you another thing that ties into, well, wait, do you have any more questions about the magic journal before?
No, I like that idea though. I really like that. I mean, and I think it's worked for me in the past. Like, like some personal stuff I wanted to manifest. Let me ask you this, and this might be on a side note, which where it's only 3 o'clock. So, or I mean, here on the East Coast, I forget where you're at. I know you're in Canada, but I'm not sure what your time is at. It's only 3 o'clock here, so I have an hour still.
Oh,
Before,
okay.
so we're
Okay,
good.
I'll slow down. So
But
yeah,
wait, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on like being able to use magic to manifest? Now, I've heard some people say, like, I was just listening to an episode of Tinfoil Hat the other night, and this girl was on there and she was trying to say that all magic is like black magic, like even white magic is black magic. And I've had some bad luck with sigils. Like, I every time I've tried to do a sigil, it never really panned out for me the way I thought it would be. So, just real quick, what are your thoughts on magic, and would you ever use it, or what do you think? Like,
I've tried magic and sigils and spells in the past, and they've been, quite frankly, very disappointing. The results have been quite disappointing. And then again, you know how I said, be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. It doesn't look the way you thought it was. And so, and plus there's no need for all that energy. There's no need to do all of that. Like when I was manifesting the house that I'm living in now, but I'm so happy here. Not a day goes by that I'm not grateful for my beautiful home. I love it so much. It's just beyond what I thought. Now, when I was waiting for the manifestation, I'll tell you what kept coming in was to think that I was worthy of it, that I was worthy. I didn't have to do anything to get it, that I was already worthy, that this is what every human being should have: decent housing, not just me, you know, all of us. And so what I had to do was work on my self-reflection and my attitudes. And of course, that goes back to, well, where did this start? And why was I thinking I wasn't worthy and you know, or worthy of success, or, you know, all the stuff that holds you back. And sometimes you got to go do some dirty old house cleaning from your past to reject and reinvent ourselves, so that we fully believe. We don't have to keep thinking, oh, I believe this, I believe this. We just, it's in our core that we believe that we're worth it. So I don't use magic of any kind. And I don't know what sources it taps into, but it's just not necessary. Like I told you about what happened to the house when I was living on that island. The island is called Malcolm Island and the town is called Sointula. Population 800 people. It was a great romantic idea to get this house up in this beautiful, clean place. But then, you know, it didn't turn out the way that we thought it would. But anyway, you know, all I did was ask and then put it out of my mind with the faith that I had been heard and that a force greater than me was working on it. And actually, that same thing kind of applies to the water glass method. You know, I didn't run around going, oh, I want to be successful. I didn't spend hours imagining myself in the future with a successful life. I didn't do any of that. I left it up to universal consciousness or God to determine how that would happen. In other words, get out of the way and let it happen. That's the hardest part. So as manifesting the house, I had to believe that I was worthy of such a place, because I had lived in low income housing for so many years. It became just habit. And I thought that was what I was meant to have, you know? And so it's putting it out there, but letting the universe be the creative artist, or your higher self even, and let that create it. So, you know, even when you're trying to manifest your car, you may not want to pick the color. You may not want to pick the make and the model and the year. You may want to leave that open. And the other thing is always sort of attaching, I would like to have this or something better. Always leave room for the or something better. So I know I'm getting away from your question about magic, but I'm thinking, why bother? You don't need it. Check out my online shop, www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, to find Zen Domes orgone generators, comfort crystals, and an array of vital services, all designed to help you to become the change that you wish to see in the world. Check out my website and find many valuable resources. There's the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation. This is a free, comprehensive online course. Learn about detoxification and nutrition, grounding and spiritual practices, and an advanced version of the law of attraction, giving you more of what you really want out of life. I also have my Zen Domes Orgonite, which is my unique brand of orgone generators. They're ethically sourced and handmade by a friend of mine, and they're double charged for maximum effect. I also carry comfort crystals, which is a limited collection of energetically infused semi-precious stones. I have an array of vital services, so you can get the one-on-one support that you've been looking for. Also coaching, guidance, and I do assessments and also workshops. And then again, there are the many free resources available on my website. Wisdom to assist with energetic ascension into physical, mental, and spiritual paradise. Let us share our quantum work with you. It's your turn to heal, evolve, and thrive. Believe in your ability to succeed. Now, let's get back to the show. You don't need to do sigils, and you don't need to do rituals. You don't need to do any of that stuff, because just the fact that we're natural citizens on this planet, we have a right, to decent food and to decent homes. All of us do. But so many of us are brainwashed to think that you have to work so many hours a week, and then you get stressed out by that. And then addictions come in and all kinds of stuff. You don't need any of that. You're worthy. You're totally, absolutely worthy, just as you are, warts, bumps, and all. Absolutely worthy. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. And I want to tell you another thing that happened to me, and this plays into the Mandela effect. I've had my own Mandela effect, and this happened quite a few years ago, and I was going through some emotional turmoil. I'm not going to get into the details, but I was out walking. I find that going out walking helps to clear my head and shift my energy, right? It's just something that's good for me. I'm not into exercising for exercise sake, but a good walk is always something I liked. And at the time where I was walking, and I don't want to get into why, but I was uncomfortable walking on the sidewalk, and they had these bike lanes. And in the bike lane, there was a picture of a bicycle, and underneath it had the word only. So bicycles only for that lane. So even though there was no bicycles around, I like to walk in the bike lane because I felt more comfortable doing that for my own personal reasons. And one day I was walking along and I went, I wish it just had a picture of a bicycle, and I wish it wasn't bicycle only, because if there's just a picture of a bicycle, obviously it's a bicycle lane, but it would be okay if people walked on it too, right? As long as, you're not obstructing, the bicycle traffic, right? So all I did was say, I wish it was just the bicycle image and it didn't say only. That's what I wish. And then I left it. So everything that I'm telling people is something that I just did it and then left it. Anyway, it was really funny. So I was out walking after that. In the next few weeks, the word only started to slowly fade and disappear from the bike lanes. And then the city came along and repainted the bicycles, but they didn't repaint the word only. And so I was like shocked, because I noticed it was fading and it was fading and it was fading. And when the city came along, they just repainted the stencil of the bicycle and the word only was gone. And I got what I wanted, and I saw it unfold in real time before my eyes. So I think with the Mandela effect, we're creating it. I think we're creating a lot of it, because I believe that the field is very flexible and alterable, and I think that everything is in response to what we want. So the nut of it all is to create our own beliefs and not be programmed by the news, by society, to walk our own path. I think is really important.
You know what I think it is, Karen? I think it's the hardest part to overcome. And I don't, we haven't touched on this yet. Is like sometimes when people get in such a rut, like even if you have like positive things going on in your life, you could still be somewhat in a rut. You know what I mean? So like when you get that way, or, I notice when I do, at least I tend to have like somewhat of like a negative attitude, and it's something that I can't even help. It's like, it's just like, like I'll feel like a certain way about something, and I'm like, and then I even, at least I have the self-realization to realize like, well, I shouldn't be thinking this way, because it's affecting like my frequency, because, and it's affecting like my overall well-being, and probably, and most importantly, from what we're talking about, it's affecting my ability to manifest stuff. So I guess it's like, how do we find a way out of that negative attitude? You know what I mean? It's hard. It seems like it's very hard to shift our perception as to how we want to feel, if that makes any sense.
That's the hardest part. Like I said, the hardest part is being open-minded and believing that things are different and can be different than what we've been brainwashed. And we've been brainwashed generation after generation. We're seeing brainwashing going on right now. I'm 67 years old, so I can look back and see how things were before. But now it's like those things were never like that. It's like nobody even knows how things were before they are now. So they weren't perfect when I was young, but at the same time, talking to a 20 or 25-year-old, they would never believe that how much freedom we used to have. I mean, we used to go and get our driver's license, and they just take a piece of kind of like cardboard that like a business card's made out of, and somebody just typed it in. We didn't have picture ID, we didn't have any of this, and it still worked fine, and there were still millions and billions of people on Earth. It's not like society couldn't function without digital ID. You know what I mean? And so it's the programming. And then people go, well, how do I step out of the programming? Because it's all I know. It's like a fish in water. It doesn't know it's in water. That's just its natural environment. Can a fish live outside of water? I don't know. But we can live outside of the social and political and religious construct that we've been given. So we don't have to go to church to get close to God. We can be out in the woods and be much closer to the Creator than we are sitting on a hard pew listening to a boring, pardon me, but it's just my opinion. I mean, if religion works for everybody, that's great. But for me, it was horrible. It was torture going to church. I hated it, but I felt like I had to do it or God would be pissed off at me. So the thing is believing that we're worth it, believing that it's possible, and then exercising our imagination to create something different. And so by listening to other people's stories, like for instance, on my show, last week, a couple weeks ago, I don't know, time flies by. I had a gentleman on, and he had fallen off a balcony. Actually, the balcony gave way, and this where he was on the edge of a ravine, and he fell a huge distance and landed on rocks and shattered his spine. And of course, he couldn't move, right? And he went in and they did corrective surgery where they put in all the nuts and bolts and the metal frames and the structure and everything. And then he got out of there and he was not getting better, and it caused all kinds of problems. And he made the decision to go back and have them remove everything. And he shows on his video, in the links below my interview with him is his video, and he shows holding all these nuts and bolts and all this stuff that they took out of his spine. And they wouldn't let him out of the hospital unless he could walk. And he said, within 6 days, I'll be walking out of here. And in 6 days, he walked out of there. And then he got involved with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and using his Dr. Joe Dispenza's techniques, he rebuilt a perfectly healthy spine. He rebuilt it. Now people go, that's impossible. That's impossible. No, people are doing stuff all the time. So when you do the research and you look at videos and stuff and watch other people and the things that they've done, there's also an old show called The Secret. And on that, there's a guy who was in a plane crash and his diaphragm was destroyed and he couldn't breathe on his own. And he just kept getting the advice to inhale deeply. And it wasn't long. They said he'd never walk. His whole body was just smashed like a bug on the windshield. And I don't know how long it took him, but he ended up walking out of there. And now he's a motivational speaker. So, I mean, these things happen all the time, Robert. And these are ordinary people. Like, you don't have to be religious. You don't have to be famous. You know what I mean? This is here for all of us. And I think the sooner we take our focus off of world events and start putting that energy into what is it that we want and we need, and I'm not talking about selfishly just wanting this and wanting that. Problem with a lot of manifestation is people start manifesting something and it doesn't come quick enough because they don't stick with it long enough to see that it's an ebb and flow and up and down, till they get to their goal. And then they're collapsing that field and they're starting another one, right? Or maybe their intentions are not pure. Maybe they just want to do it for fame, glory, money. Those things don't matter. They don't matter. Yes, you need to survive. You need proper housing and food and all that. But that whole lure of what so-called riches is going to give you. No, all riches does is gives you a whole pack of new problems that you got to deal with. Even if it's, even if, if I won $1 million and I ended up buying a boat and an RV and this and that and everything, well, then you got to clean it, you got to use it, you got to insure it, you got to protect it. Like a whole bunch of crap goes with having a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not saying having stuff is wrong, but I'm saying I think people need to get back to just really basic and connection. And I think it's really important for the opening of the heart and the intention to be very clear and to stay with it, to not undo it and go, oh, I changed my mind, now I want something else. If you want to really, like me, if I wanted a really rich, handsome husband, I'd probably get one, but he might be a narcissist. You know what I'm saying? So, let the universe hear us, and then create what it is that we want. And I got another story that's absolutely true that will probably blow your mind. It's really hard for me to tell without crying. Just thinking about it makes me get teary, but it's really important. And this is something that I actually invented because I'd never heard of it anywhere, and I've never heard of it anywhere since. And that's going back and changing the past. So I believe that time is not what we've been taught it is. Do you want to hear about it, Robert?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and I'm not saying that to go, oh, boo-hoo, poor Karen. A lot of us did. A lot of us grew up, with parents that didn't know how to be, proper parents. They were fucked up from whatever and whatever, right? And so one of the things that really bothered me about my childhood is my mother and my stepfather were hell-bent on becoming millionaires. That was the most important thing to them. So all their time and all their energy went into being basically socially upwardly mobile or whatever. And so they didn't have time for us at all. And my mom, she never gave me eye contact. She never listened to me. She never was interested in anything about me. Yeah, I had clothes on my back, I had food in my belly, and I had a warm bed at night, but I didn't have any of the emotional things that people need to grow up to be healthy and whole. And I had really, really, really regretted that. And so I had heard that, and I had heard that all of our memories are actually fake. It's not that the events we remember didn't happen. It's just that every time we take out a memory and we look at it, especially bad memories, we're imbuing it with emotion, we're imbuing it with subtle details, and that actual event probably happened and probably shouldn't have happened, but it's not what we're carrying around with us energetically or in our memory. And so I thought, well, that's cool, because now I can go back and change it. So what I did was I created a false memory for myself, and I spent time constructing it. And so I guess I'm a bit of a timeline engineer, really. And what I did was I invented a story where when I came home after school, my mother was very interested in my day and how it went. And she'd get out the tea set and she'd make tea, and we'd sit, and she'd just attentively listen to me for 20 minutes or whatever she could spend in the day, listening to me and looking at me and validating me. And oh my God, it made me feel so good. So I kept embellishing it in a positive way. And I planted that memory in my soul. I don't know how to explain it. I implanted it, and I believed in it. I knew I made it up. I still know I made it up, but at the same time, it was real to me, and it made me feel good. And so I embellished it further, that if I had come home from school and I'd had a bad day, my mom would get out the good tea set and maybe a couple special cookies, and we'd sit and she'd listen to me and she'd look at me. And it was the most beautiful. Sorry, it makes me emotional just talking about it, because it made me feel so good,
Yeah.
And sorry.
That's okay. It's
So
important that this stuff comes out, because like, I think this is going to change a lot of people. I think it's good that you're doing this, Karen. Like, you don't know how many people we're going to help from this. I really
I
truly
hope.
believe that.
I
So
hope.
I hope we do, because I know a lot of my subscribers, like some of them, don't have a lot of money right now and they're going through this. So I really believe that like this manifesting can help a lot of people. This show really will help a
Yeah.
lot of people. I hope it does.
I hope so too, because this is so real. So then this is the thing that blew me away, Robert. 6 months later, I went to visit my mom. Sorry. And she just out of the blue, she turned to me and she said, Karen, do you remember the tea parties we used to have after school? Now, I know that never happened. I know I made that up. I know I planted that in my memory so that I could feel better and I could heal. But how did my mother know? I never told anybody. So that's the other part of all of this. When you're manifesting, keep it secret. Keep it secret. Don't tell people. I didn't tell my mom. I never mentioned it to my siblings. I never mentioned it to anybody because it was precious. I created it and it was mine. And my mom turned to me and said, Karen, do you remember the tea parties we used to have after school? And that blew me away. So somehow, did I jump timelines? Did I change the past? Was that time travel? I don't know. I don't know how it worked, but my mother remembered my implanted fake memory. So that means that we can heal the past and make the now better. And for all the people that are suffering out there because they've been traumatized and they've been abused, and I got to tell you, mental health is not about health. I've gone to mental health. I've tried all their programs. None of that stuff did any good for me, just made me feel worse, really, in the long run. And this implanted memory changed my life, and it changed my mother's memory, and I never told her. So how can you, we can't explain that, but that absolutely happened for me. I want people to know that's how powerful the gift of our imagination is.
That's amazing. That's really like amazing stuff. Like I can't believe you've had some really amazing experiences, Karen. Like it's I think what you said would go back on what you said. I think being secretive about what you're manifesting is a big thing. I think we
Yeah.
should, that is a good point, because the more that we let things known that like if we're successful, people can feed into that. You get like what they call the evil eye. Like people will get really jealous really fast about your success or anything you have going good, because a lot of people in this world aren't happy about other people's success. You know what I mean? People like to hate more than they do like to encourage. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like they don't like to be encouraging about people's successes. People are more happy, and I don't know why we live in a world like that, but that's the way it is.
I think it's because we've been lied to and we've been taught that the only way to get to to get to a certain point, there's a saying that says the ends justify the means. So like my parents, they didn't mean to be bad parents, but they felt that the best gift they could give us was to become millionaires, because then we could go to better schools and we could have everything we wanted and we'd have social standing. And so they felt that, sacrificing basically their relationship with us would be worth it, because in the end, they'd be able to give us a better life. And so it's that thinking that the ends justifies the means. The other thing too is people, even if they don't say things that poo-poo our ideas or our goals, they're thinking it, they're feeling it. And why do they think that and feel that? Because they don't know that they can have it too. And they don't know how easy it is. And so when we want to bring that even to the world conditions today, we can change the world conditions simply by changing our thought processes and what we believe is possible. We can recreate this world. I mean, if I can do the things I've done, why can't we collectively recreate this world? So we don't have to worry about what, the different, I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to get dinged on YouTube, but, the different powers that are trying to convince us that we need them, that we're so stupid we can't function without them saving us. That's been
Yeah.
going on for a long time. People don't know that they can have it too. They just got to do the internal work. And then when you do the internal work, you're sort of pure of spirits. You can open your heart. And it's a completely different way of living and being. And then all these amazing results come. And I think part of the reason why I've been given these amazing experiences is so that I could share it and tell everybody. I'm a blabbermouth, you know. I've had angelic experiences. I've had very, very positive extraterrestrial experiences. I'm working on my book right now. I know I've been saying that for a while. It's a lot more to writing a book than what it sounds like. But anyway, maybe that's what I need to do. I need to write in my magic journal, Karen finished her book. And, you know, sometimes I try to do it myself. And I think that part of my success is where I got to the point where I knew I couldn't do it alone. And I was able to open my heart and turn it over to universal consciousness. So yeah, in the meantime, yeah, keep it secret. It's more powerful when we keep it secret.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've been going about an hour. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we finish up today? Or
No, that's about it, Robert. I really appreciate it. This is going to go out on my channel and your channel, and I'm really hoping we're going to reach people. And please, everybody, leave me, comments if you've got questions. I mean, we could always get together and do another show later if we want. The sky's the limit. But I just really want to encourage people to believe in themselves. And what we're seeing right now in the short term, like within a year or even within a month or a week, is not how it's going to be. So be patient. Patience is really important, just like getting out of our own way and letting it happen, not being too busy micromanaging the universe, if that makes sense.
yeah, I agree. I agree. Oh, yeah. Do you want to tell everybody where to and thank you, Karen, this was amazing. And do you want to tell everybody where to find you and yeah.
Well, I'm available on pretty much every podcast platform. I'm part of the Forbidden Knowledge News Network, and so it goes out. Chris Matthew is promoting my show as well, so it's going out all over the place. It's available on my website. My shows are available on my website. And I've kept the name Karen Holton TV pretty consistent. You may want to type in the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton if you want to get some of the audio podcasts. You might want to type in Aliens and Angels, which is my other podcast. If you want to find individual podcasts there. I'm pretty hard not to find. And Robert, for my viewers, where can people find you?
It's just the Typical Skeptic podcast everywhere. And I'll put links in the description, but I'm really trying to build up my presence on like Rumble and Rockfin and Odyssey and audio. Audio is the best. I back up everything to audio too. I'm on Spreaker, just the same way Chris is from Forbidden. Like I put all my shows on Spreaker. I like them. They're the best for like audio monetization. You know what I mean? I was with Spotify, then I switched to Spreaker. That's much better. I don't know, but I'm yeah. I guess I'm pretty easy to find too. And yeah, I love doing these shows, Karen. This was fun.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much, Robert. And also, all of Robert's links are going to be in the description below this video on my channel. And I just want people to know that, you are worthy no matter where you are, what point you're at in your evolution or anything. You're worthy. You matter. Everything about you matters. And together we can bring about paradise, literally paradise, to planet Earth and beyond. So thank you again, Robert, and much love to everybody. And I hope you all have a wonderful week. And I can't wait to hear back. I'm hoping that you're all going to try the water glass method, the magic diary, simple prayer, as well as go back and change your past. It's powerful.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, thanks, Karen, and I'll send you a link when I post it.
Wonderful, and same for me for you. Thank you so much,
Thanks.
Robert. Take care.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us on the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels. Like this video and share it with your friends. You can also find the Quantum Guide Show and my other podcast called Aliens and Astrology on the Forbidden Knowledge News Network. That's www.forbiddenknowledge.news. And while you're at it, check out my website, www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, where you will find some amazing products and services and an abundance of free resources to help you with your journey. All of the links are in the description below. And in the meantime, until we see you next week, keep up the good work.
Endlessness puts all my inner strife to rest, for time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less, and the sages put me to their test. With heart and soul I do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I must confess, I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all in